Hello guys, I am Umair Nazim and welcome to the C++ programming series in Let's Code. Well, in the previous video, we talked about how to print a statement in C++, but in today's tutorial, we will take a look about the data types in C++. Well, data types are very important in every programming language because data types are the base of every language. So that's why we will take a look in a very detail. I have created the two sections for this video. In the first section of the video, we will take a look on the slides. I will cover each and everything in a detail so that you can understand very well. And then in the second section, I will demonstrate you a practical example on the compiler. So let's get started. So guys, the first thing is that what is a data type and why we use data type in every programming language. Well, data types are used to tell the variables the type of data it can store. So what it means. So please try to understand first what is a variable. Well, variable is something that can store a data. In your practical life, you can take the example of a box. So we use a box to store our items, to put our items in it. And whenever we want to reuse that item, we can just open the box and we can fetch the item. So similar like this, here in the programming, we create the variables, we put our data in it, and whenever we need that data, we open that variable and we fetch the data back. So let me give you an example of a variable. So here I have created a variable here with the yellow color. I am indicating, the yellow color is indicating here the variable, okay? So I have created a variable and I have given the name as a number. And here I am assigning value 5 into the variable. Let's take another example. So here I have created a variable and I have given the name as a decimal to the variable, and I am putting 10.3 value inside this variable. So it means that the number 5 variable is containing the value 5 and the decimal variable is containing the value 10.3. Let's take the third example. Now this time my variable is country and I am assigning a sentence, that is Pakistan is a beautiful country, and this Pakistan is a beautiful country is stored inside the country variable. So that is basically a variable in which I am storing my data. So now the question is like, what is a data type? Well, the main thing is that actually when you are creating a variables in the programming and when you compile your code, that variables will go into the memory and memory will allocate a space for these variables. But to allocate the space, actually the memory allocate the space according to the value that you have stored inside the variable. So if your value is related to a number, it will create a different memory space for that variable. If your variable is holding a value like a sentence or like a single letter, it will hold a different value. It will hold a different space for that variable. So here it comes that the concept of a data type. So actually data types helps the memory to understand like how much space do we need for that variable. So now take a look like what kind of data types do we have in C++. So in C++ we have integer, then we have float, double, character, string, and Boolean. So here we have different kind of data types that we can store in a variable. So let's take a look individually. So here what is an integer? Well, integer is a number that is without a floating point, without any decimal point, you can say. Like it can start from 0 and it can go so on, like 0, 1, 2, like 100, 1000, something like this. So these numbers are called as an integer. So the keyword used for integer data type is int. So the first thing is, like, for example, you have created a variable, you have stored a value like 1, 2 or 3, any value inside it. But to represent this thing, like to tell the computer like this value is related to an integer, you have to write the keyword int that I have highlighted here in the red color. After that, integer require 4 bytes of memory space. So as I have mentioned before, like different data types, they require a different memory space. So here in integer it requires the 4 bytes. It does not contain any decimal value. So let's take the example. So here I have highlighted the variable with the yellow color. So I have given my variable name as a number. So this number is containing the value 5. But before that I have initialized here the type of value. So my value type is integer. So when I will compile this code, our memory will easily understand that like this variable is containing an integer value, so it will allocate 4 bytes of memory space for it. Let's take a second example. So here in the num variable, I'm assigning the value 100 and the type is integer. So this is the structure I can represent any integer value in the C++ programming. So here next data type is float. So what is a float? So previously we talked about the integer. We said that integers do not contain any decimal value. But when it comes to the float, actually float is some kind of value that is containing a like decimal value, a point value. So to represent a float in C++, the keyword used for float data type is float. Here I have highlighted in the red color. So we have to write float. So float require 4 bytes of memory space. So it is same with the integer and it contain a decimal value. Now let's take a look on the example. So here I have created my again variable and I have installed 5.2 value, and to represent this float I have written f with a lowercase letter so that our compiler can easily understand that we are going to deal with the float. So 5.2 will store inside the number, but this f will not store because it is just a letter to represent the float. So but before that we also have to write here float, 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 so that our computer can easily understand and allocate a memory space for it. So let's take a second example. So in the second example, again I have created one variable with the name num and I am storing 100.1 value inside it. But one thing guys, like you can create the variables, you can give any name whatever you want. So I'm just using here like a num or number, but it is up to you. Whatever name you want to give, you can give, but it should be a logical name. So let's take a look on the double. So what is a double? Actually double is same like the float. Double is also containing the decimal values, but double is a double Persian values. It contains double Persian values, but float contains single Persian values. And also the float, it requires the less memory, while the double, it requires the more memory. So that is the difference between float and double. So have a look here. The keyword used for double data type is double. Double require 8 bytes of memory space. So as you can see, float requires 4 bytes, while double requires 8 bytes. So it contains the decimal value. But guys, maybe you have noticed one thing, like to represent the data type, we always have to represent with the lowercase letters. So here as you can see, the double is also written in the lowercase, while float was also written in the lowercase, and integer was also written in the lowercase. So please make sure about this thing. Then here first I have written the data type like double, so like our computer will understand like we are going to deal with the double data type, double values. So again, I have created a variable and I have given the name as a number, and I'm assigning the value 5.222. But while dealing with the double, we don't need to write anything like FD, something like this. Just we have to write a here decimal value, so computer will understand. So have a look on the second example. So here I have again written the data type, that is double. I have created a variable and I'm storing a value, that is 100.112. So take a look on the character. So what is a character? Well, character is basically a single letter of your ABC, you can say. So a single letter is called as a character. So to represent a character in C++, we have to use this keyword, that is char, C-H-A-R, char. So character require 1 byte of memory space and it contains single letter. So here let's take a look on the example. So to represent a character, you have to write here char, C-H-A-R, char. After that, you have to create one variable. So as I said that you can give any name. So here I'm writing, I'm giving the name as a letter. And to represent this character, actually, to write this character, you can write the character inside the single quoted commas. So please make sure about this thing. Like when you are going to deal with a character, you have to put your value inside the single quoted comma. Let's take a look on the second example. So here again, first of all, I am writing the data type, that is char, and then I'm creating one variable and I'm storing the value z inside it. So guys, it's the time to do a practical here. So let's get started. So here, first of all, I have imported a library, IOStream library. After that, I have using namespace std, and here I have created the main body, I mean the main method from which the execution will start. So that is the structure of C++. Whenever you want to write a code, you have to use the same structure. And within this main method, you can write any code of your choice. So guys, let's take a start from the integer data type. So for the integer, as I told you that first of all we have to specify the data, the type of data that you are going to deal. So I'm going to deal with integer. For that reason, I have to write here int. Then the second step is to create a variable. So I can give any name. So I can write num, and then now it is the time to give a value. So I can store a value like 10 here. So one important thing is, guys, here this operator is called as an assignment operator. It is not an equal operator. So when you want to store a value inside the variable, you have to use this assignment operator. So now let's try to see output. For that reason, I will use cout to get an output. So I will write my variable name, that is num, and I will end this statement by end a line. So let's run it. So as you can see in the output, our value is 10. So let's take a look on the data type, that is float. So for the float, we have to write here first float with the lowercase. Then we have to create a variable. So guys, one important thing, please make sure and always remember this thing. Like inside the scope, we cannot create two variables with the same name. So scope means that these two curly brackets. Okay, inside these two curly brackets, I cannot create the two variables with the same name. Now for instance, if I create here again num and I can give a value, so let's see what will happen. So if I save this code and I'm going to run this one, so as you can see here, it is giving an error because we cannot create two variables with the same name. Because if we create two variables with the same name, now here I am calling the variable, the compiler cannot understand like I am going to call the first variable or second variable. So that's why always you have to create a variable with a different name. So to give a different name, either I can give a totally different name or either I can make some change like this, num. So here I will write this num. So let's save it and let's run the code. So as you can see, now it is giving the value 20 here. But actually I did one mistake. So while dealing with the float, you have to give your point value, your decimal value. So for that reason, I have to write 20.2 or any value you want to give, and at the end we have to use this F symbol. Okay. So now let's save and run it again. So now the output is 20.2 here. So let's take a look on the third data type, that is a double. So to deal with the double, you have to specify double, and then you have to create your variable. I can give name any name. So this time I will write here number, and I will write any value. So that is the value. So here now I will put the name of my variable, that is number. Let's run it again and see. So now as you can see here, 5.33 value is printed. So now take a look on the character. So for the character we have to use here char char. Then we have to create a variable. So I can give any name, let's suppose letter. And so now we are dealing with the character. As you remember, we have to put our value inside a single quoted commas. So I can put a value like this. So you can put any uppercase value, any lowercase value, it doesn't matter. So here to print the statement, I can remove this one and I will write my variable name, that is letter. So as you can see, the output is A here. So take a look on the string. So for the string, again, I have to specify the data type, that is string. And here I can again give any name. Let's suppose I can give a variable with a name. And here for the string we have to use double quoted commas. So I can write my name inside it like this, and I have to close this line with the semicolon. So here I will write the variable name, that is name. Let's save and run. So as you can see in the output, my name is written here. So the last data type is Boolean. So let's see how can we deal with the Boolean. So for that one we have to write bool, and then we have to give any variable. So let's write con, and here I'm going to give any condition, that's either true or false, but without the without any quoted commas. So I can simply write here like true. So now let's see what will be the result. So for that one I will write condition, I will save the file, and let's see what will be the result. So guys, this time the result is 1. Why? Well, if your value is true, so here I'm specifying the value as a true. So if your value is true, it will give you 1. But if your value is here false, then it will give you the answer as a 0. So 0 means your value is false. Let's see. So here as you can see, the value is 0. So guys, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video and the topic is clear to you. If you have any kind of question, you can ask me anytime. See you in the next video with a new topic. Take care.